In studio now is Vincent Orange. He is an at-large member of the D.C. Council. He is now a Democratic candidate for mayor of the District of Columbia. Vincent Orange, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
If you have questions or comments for Vincent Orange before Tom Sherwood asks him about jaywalking, you can call us at 800-433-8850 or send email to koju@wamu.org. Vincent Orange is a candidate for Mayor. Tom Sherwood.
And, Mr. Orange, we can see out this window right here, and I saw you jaywalking. So
Tom feels that it is his duty as a citizen.
It's already been retweeted by somebody, so I just want you to know we're watching your every move as you're a candidate for mayor.
Fortunately, Tom did not conduct a citizen's arrest because he's been known to do these kinds of things. Few politicians in the district have sought different offices and different opportunities as aggressively as you have during the past decade. But you have run for mayor in the past, and you're now doing so again. What compels you to run, and in a crowded field of candidates, why do you feel you may be the best choice for D.C. voters?
Well, what compels me to run is that I offer a balanced, reasonable approach to governing the affairs of the District of Columbia while leaving no one behind. The District of Columbia is doing extremely well today, yet we are leaving a number of folks behind. And it's become crystal clear in this whole debate over minimum wages. The fact that we have the highest disposable income in the nation, 1,000 new people are moving in on a monthly basis. We still have residents here that can't make ends meet, yet we're producing jobs. And so the question is, since we're doing so well, why don't we look to take care of our citizens? If you look right across the street at the University of District of Columbia, they're talking about eliminating 28 baccalaureate programs, eliminating the athletic programs. Well, why would you want to do that if at the same time you're telling me that our pipeline of education is improving, that the public schools and the charter schools are producing students that ultimately will be college ready, so why shouldn't they be able to go to the University of the District of Columbia? And so I think now is the time to really talk about where the District of Columbia is going. We can't rest on our laurels. We have to move forward and have a vision for everybody.
Prior to this campaign, it is arguable that people perceived you as a business booster in your 2010 campaign for chairman and mayor in 2006. You presented yourself as the right CPA for this job, a man who understood business. Lately, you've been talking about the minimum wage, and now you're talking about the left behind. How do you intend to strike that balance?
Well, I think you have to look at my record. My record has always been one of balance. Look at Ward 5 when I came to office in 1999. We planted the seeds for economic development. We had the first economic development project in 20 years, Home Depot and Giant. And as soon as we executed that deal, I went over to Brooklyn Manor to the ANCs and got resumes and took them and placed them with the Human Resources Department at Home Depot so people could walk across the street and have work. Remember, we planted the seeds for the reopening of McKinley Technology High School, $85 million project, and then school modernization came forward. Planted the seeds for bringing public access television to Brooks Mansion. Remember, they wanted to turn that into a jail.
I can't comment on that because I'm the chairman of the Public Access Corporation. But I can't say whether that was a good thing or a bad thing.
But it's a great thing, and people are enjoying public access television in Brooks Mansion. When you look at recreation, we planted the seeds for recreation. We had the first 3 new recreation facilities: Turkey Thicket, North Michigan Park Recreation Center, Brentwood Community Center. We planted the seeds for our children to have books for their core subjects by the second week of school. But you have to do this with money. You have to be able to pay for your vision. If you've been doing
all of those things, then why are people, including the people in the ward in which you live, being left behind?
Well, because today what we're saying is that we were in a bad situation in 1999. We had a $518 million deficit. We had junk bond stats. We had a control board. Fast forward to today, we are doing extremely well, but we are leaving people behind. People go to work every day, yet they still have to apply for food stamps. They have to go and get a housing voucher. They have to try to find child care. And even we're not even helping our citizens protect their assets. People are losing their homes for less than $1,000 tax liability. We're leaving people behind, and Vincent Orange is not going to leave people behind.
Tom.
Well, you're a veteran council member. Jack Evans, veteran council member. Muriel Bowser is starting to be a veteran council member. David Catania is a veteran council member. Some people are saying to me when I walk around the city and ask, they say, well, all these people have some positive things about them, but maybe we need some new fire. Of course, the mayor thinks he can have another term and have enough fire, that maybe it's time for somebody new, somebody who hasn't been in office. I mean, every one of you can cite things you've done. Why do you think you should be the mayor at a time now? I mean,
what distinguishes you from
that's
these
what I'm
others?
trying to pick
Well,
from the other council members. Just call them out.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you what distinguishes me from others. What distinguishes me from others is that I will leave no one behind.
What does that mean?
Let me finish.
I know, but that doesn't mean anything to me.
But it means something to the citizens of the District of Columbia that are being left behind. If you look at the article in the Washington Post today, there's an article about people being left behind. And that's what the issue is. When you look at the University of District of Columbia, let's talk about the future. Where are we going with our only public institution of higher education? If you're now saying you want to cut out physics, you want to come out.
They cut out 17 degree programs.
The degree programs. Well, what about the children in the District of Columbia that are not going to go to Yale, that's not going to go to Harvard, but they want to get a good education, and they can get that at the University of District of Columbia?
So you're saying you will make the University of District of Columbia, which has had a tortured history of management and turnover and job and trouble, that you will turn that around and make it clear cut? I mean, we've got the community school now, but is that it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I can make that into the institution that it should be, because one, that we're working in our pipeline of education. With the millenniums, we will produce college-ready students. In addition to that, we will look at new streams of revenue, and we will get the profile of the unemployed in the District of Columbia and make sure we are creating jobs for them.
Well, the mayor says he's doing it, but I'm just going to go to the wet mattress that's hanging over the city, and that's the ethics troubles of the mayor, the federal criminal investigation of him. But I won't recite all the cases, you know them. You've had some questions about your own contributions. You called them suspicious yourself, and you cooperated, I think, with all the officials about that, and there's been no charges against you. I presume there are none pending that you want to tell us about. But where's the ethics in the issue when you want to be the leader of the city that has this wet mattress hanging over us?
Well, first of all,
how do you get rid of it?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. There are no charges pending against me,
or no investigations that involve you.
Right.
Okay.
Let's talk about ethics. The ethics bill that was ultimately passed, 40% of that bill was actually written by me. I introduced 4 bills that made up the 10 that was actually created a package. But even with that, I believe that we need to go further. I believe that council members should be banned from holding outside employment. I believe that entities that are doing businesses in the city should not have a council member on their payroll. I believe that constituent services funds should not be used to purchase season tickets when we have so many people suffering. And that's what I'm talking about, leaving people behind. You know, the District of Columbia government is not a place for a person to come down and enjoy life and have a great life. It's for you to come down and make a contribution. I was a Ward 5 council member for 8 years. Look at my record of contribution. Now I'm an at-large member. Look at the record of contribution. The record of contribution includes the fight for living wage, which now has resulted in the minimum wage, the fight to resolve the issues as it relates to the food trucks.
Yeah, but people will also be looking at contributions to you. And to underscore the point Tom is making, you're going to be in a bunch of debates in which now incumbent Mayor Gray will also be involved, and people will be firing questions at him about not being clear about his relationship with Jeffrey Thompson. They're likely to fire the same kinds of questions about you. Why aren't you clear about the relationship you had with Jeffrey Thompson and the contributions you received from him? How do you think that could affect your campaign?
Well, I think that those issues are clear. The fact that my campaign had 5 audits by the Office of Campaign Finance, and that case has been closed. You keep talking about a special election. Special election is closed on Vincent Orange. Remember, I'm sitting here before you today because I have a fresh 4-year term. There were no problems with my last election. That's why I'm here today, and I'm off and running. And I am providing things for the citizens, things that citizens can touch and feel. Right around. I remember I was involved in bringing Costco to the city. Now Costco is here. Their average wage is $21.96 per hour. The typical person there makes $45,000.
Why should Mayor Vincent Gray be the mayor again? Do you think Tommy Well is another candidate for mayor, the Ward 6 council member, says the mayor, he just says it flat out, the mayor ran a corrupt campaign and should not run again.
Well,
I mean, where are you on the corruption as you've seen it unfold against your fellow council members and the ongoing one with the mayor? We still don't. He doesn't talk about the details of Jeffrey Thompson or anybody else. He says, "I've said all I'm going to say."
Well, let me just say, as it relates to me, the mayor has to speak for himself, but Vincent Orange is free and clear to talk about the future of the nation's capital and where we're going.
No, I'm asking you,
and
what's
what
your
our
opinion
citizens.
of the fact that Mayor Gray has been under federal criminal investigation for his campaign for the last 2.5 years?
My opinion is that it's Vincent Gray and the U.S. Attorney's Office and everybody else involved, they'll have to work that out. I mean, I'm like you. I'm sitting and I'm watching. But at the same time, I'm looking at the future of the District of Columbia. Where are we going to take our people?
Our
and how
guest
are we going to
is
protect
Vincent Orange. He's a Democratic candidate for mayor of the District of Columbia. He's an at-large member of the D.C. Council, and he's here to take your phone calls at 800-433-8850. You can send email to kojo@wamu.org. Is your only criticism of Mayor Gray, then, that you have been quoted as saying he has been willing to leave people behind? You think in other respects he's been doing a good job?
No, well, if we look in terms of finances, there have been 247 public-private construction projects in the city, yet the auditor says that we shortchanged our business community to the tune of $1.4 billion. I had a hearing on that. And I've
When you say we shortchanged our business community, what do you mean by
because
that?
there's a law on the books that says these public-private partnerships, especially when D.C. dollars are involved, that you must set aside 35%. And they get 35% of the business. That has
Yeah, I
not
like
been
it
taking
that those
place.
laws are on the books, but the council never seems to have to pass any enforcement mechanism behind those laws. And as a longtime member of the council, who should be blamed for that?
Well, let's examine that. Last year, I got two bills. The Certified Business Enterprise Bill passed on a vote of 13-0 twice, and then the mayor vetoed the bill. The mayor had 6 legislative initiatives and 19 recommendations. We included them in the bill, yet it was vetoed, and the number of members on the council, they got weak-kneed, and so that bill did not go forward. I'm holding a hearing on December 11th. We want to examine why the certified business community was shortchanged last year to the tune of $528 million, when the law says each agency head must expend at least 50% of their expendable budgets with D.C. businesses. That's $528 million that should be circulating in the District of Columbia economy. And then that way we can employ people. People can go to our small businesses and purchase goods, and it keeps our economy moving forward.
And there are many good businesses in the city that should be allowed to have a fair shot at city government contracts, although there are also, as in other states, there are too many instances of where the minority set-aside is a pass-through business, barely a storefront, in which the money just passes through to meet some kind of city requirement, and the minority businesses themselves don't hire anybody, and because they're just a pass-through.
Well, in the District of Columbia, there are 1,200 certified business enterprises, and for the most part, they've done extremely well. The problem that they have is that we continue to let our dollars circulate outside the city. We're a $12 billion organization. There should be no reason why we aren't doing business with people that are subject to taxation in the District of Columbia. There should be no reason why if someone in California and someone in Michigan get together, create a business, come into District of Columbia and get a $500 million contract. That's because we need a new mindset. We need to make sure that everyone in the District of Columbia has the opportunity to be a part of the great prosperity that's taking place.
I want to go back to the issue of campaign finance. Do you feel that the campaign finance reform passed by the council this week go far enough, in your view?
Not at all. I think it's feel good, and as I indicated on the dais, the council members has to start looking at council members. You cannot say that you're creating campaign finance law when a council member can be on the payroll of an entity doing business with the city.
Who is that?
There are instances
Who
where
is that?
Well, there are a number of them.
Well, you want to be the bold, forthright mayor on ethics?
Name names.
I want to hear names.
Well, let me just say there are 3 members on the council right now that have outside employment, and
3 out of 13.
3 out of 13, and those 3 members are doing business for their employer while they are actually conducting business for the District of Columbia. And I don't think that you can really talk about true ethics if you are also hold outside employment.
Have you not had a job while you've been a council member?
Back in 2002, I did. But as you get on the council and you learn what's taking place and you find yourself in where we are today, you have to adapt. You have to make changes. And we want this government to be a government that's moving forward, that's transparent, that if you're going to deal with ethics, deal with it all. Not just, you want to talk about bungling.
Are the three council members that you don't want to name, I can name them, but I think you should since you brought them up, but have they done something improper? Is it improper? I mean, have they done something that should be called attention to by the ethics panel? Or you're just suggesting that the opportunity is there.
What I'm suggesting is that we avoid the appearance of impropriety, that we avoid a conflict of interest.
So Mary Chay's a law professor from Ward 3. She's a law professor. She should give up her career there to be a full-time council member?
What I'm saying is that the George Washington University,
I think it's Georgetown Law School.
George Washington University or Georgetown, they do a lot of business with the city, and we have two other council members that are actually on the payrolls of entities that do business with the city. And
let's name this. It's not fair. You're talking about David Catania, who has done work for the MC Dean, which has contract for traffic lights and stuff like that. He has said, and people have looked, and he has the large corporation. He has no contact with any of the people who do the business with the city.
Well,
and who's the third one? Jack Evans, who has a law firm.
Yes.
And his law firm does what? Law firm does they do?
I believe it's Patent Boggs, but
it is Patent Boggs. But there's another side to that coin, and that is people feel that some of the council members who have committed crimes and been sentenced for them got jobs on the council because they frankly couldn't make that kind
Harry
of
Thomas
money
didn't have an outside job. He just
anyplace
had an
else,
outside
and that they
theft.
were looking for jobs on the council as a lifestyle upgrade. How do you prevent people from doing that? And therefore, if they're looking for a job on the council as a lifestyle upgrade, that makes them vulnerable to all kinds of offers they might be getting from people who are interested in doing business with the city, whether they're actually working for those people or not.
Well, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we have a level playing field. This is the District of Columbia today, and what do we want the District of Columbia of tomorrow to be like? And what we want is a government that avoids the appearance of impropriety. We want a government that keeps itself out of potential conflicts of interest, and we want a government that protects the assets of the District of Columbia government and its residents.
How does being a George Washington University law professor keep someone from being objective about any of those things you just said? Well, just to use that one as an example.
Well, first of all, I introduced legislation that merely requested that council members, if you're going to have outside employment, at least report your hours. Let's see the hours. If I'm paying you $250,000 a year, you need to be telling me how many hours are you working? Are you really serving the citizens of the District of Columbia? You want to talk about someone.
Would you be willing to give up your hours? How about you do for your $130,000 job?
Well, I'm a full-time at-large councilman.
I think maybe you should report your hours in 6-minute increments like a lawyer.
Well,
put on your headphones, Tom, because here is Seth in Washington, D.C. Seth, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, you guys.
Good afternoon.
I'm calling with a comment, but also a question. Vincent, Mr. Orange, I've been in the city for 22 years, and each time there was an election, if you're not in the office already, you would be running for that position. I think by now you should have had accomplished most of what you set out to do. And today we're all celebrating the life of Nelson Mandela. He just served one term, but his legacy will live for quite a long time. How do you compare yourself to him, and what?
Well, allow me to say, it's unfair to ask anybody to compare themselves to Nelson Mandela.
Sure.
There is no such comparison, but allow me to emphasize what you've been saying, and that is, Seth wants to know, if you've run this much and you've sat on the council for this much, how come you haven't accomplished your objectives?
Well, let's say I have accomplished many of my objectives. I've accomplished my objectives in the area of economic development for Ward 5. Go look at Ward 5 now. See Home Depot, see Giant, see Costco, see people going to work. Go look at McKinley Technology High School, where President Obama came out last year and provided the School Excellence Award, where 90% of the children are reading proficiently, 90% of them are proficient in math. Look at my legislation that mandates that this school system is to provide books for our children, but by the
But I think
that
Seth's
was
question underscores the other question, and that is, if you have run for office so frequently, why should people take you seriously every time?
Well, let's say this: the people are taking me seriously because I occupy the position as at-large council member. I just let me finish. I just received a fresh 4-year term, despite all the noise that's been out there. The fact that the food truck industry came to me to resolve their issues when the executive branch couldn't get it done. The fact that the people that needed to get sick leave pay came to Vincent Orange and says, "Can you get this done for me?" The fact that people want a living wage and a minminimum wage, they came to Vincent Orange. So it's the leadership that I provide.
Okay. Do you always talk in the third person? Do you refer to yourself? I've gotten some tweets from people who are unnerved by that. But I have a question that somebody has tweeted in. If you're, and this is back to ethics, if you're not,
you only have about a minute.
If you're not under any investigation yourself, and you say you're not, and I accept that, have you cooperated with federal investigations into any of these cases involving the mayor or the other council members? Have you been interviewed by the FBI on any of these cases? Or the prosecutor's office?
Well, why would they?
To find out what you know.
Well, first of all, no, I have not. And let's look at this. Remember, it was Adrian Fenty running for mayor and Vincent Orange running for chairman. On the other side was Vincent Gray running for mayor and Kwame Brown running for chairman. So why would I even be on that side if something was going on? Do you think that?
Just about your connection to Jeffrey Thompson and the money he gave you, because he gave a lot of people money. He gave a lot of people money. So I would think that prosecutors would ask you, what did you know about it? Did he ever suggest that it was illegal money or anything like that? To which you may have said no. But surely you must have been interviewed about the contribution.
You got about 40 seconds.
Absolutely, and nothing has come of that. They've also asked for records from all the council members.
That's what I'm saying. Have you been helping them? Since you're not the target yourself, you've been helping the investigation.
As it relates to my campaign, they have not asked me anything about anybody else.
Has not been questioned about any other's campaign. And the campaign that he's involved in now is the campaign for mayor of the District of Columbia. Vincent Orange, he's an at-large member of the D.C. Council. Thank you for joining us. Good luck to you.
Thank you for having me.